1.
Hey there, STB sports fans, and welcome back to another video. I'm Max, and I am here with my co-analyst, Andrew. Pretty excited for this one. Today, we're going to be bringing you guys NFL Week 15 rundown. So, as usual, we'll get you guys with our game picks for the week, some fantasy analysis, and more. So, let's get into our first game, Andrew.
All right, Max. So our first game is going to be the Buffalo Bills at the Denver Broncos. The Bills are favored by 6 points. So what do you have on this one?
Yeah, so this is going to be a good game in my opinion. The Bills are on such a hot streak. They've won 6 of their last 7 and would have won 7 if not for the Hail Murray. And they have a great opportunity to continue that this time. However, they do have to play at Denver, so this could be a bit of a struggle. The Broncos are not to be overlooked. They did put up 32 points last week, but they also have a ton of defensive injuries. Their cornerback issues are heavy this week, so definitely something to watch. This could be a decent game, though I definitely expect the Bills to win because they're just a more talented team. Josh Allen is much better than Drew Lock, who can be very turnover prone, and the Bills are just better coached. I think Sean McDermott is a better coach than Vic Fangio, and I think that the Buffalo Bills continue to look to get as good of a seed as possible in the AFC.
Yeah, and then from a fantasy perspective in your fantasy playoffs, you're definitely going to be wanting to start Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, which you usually are anyways, but especially against this subpar Broncos defense. Cole Beasley is also a decent flex or wide receiver 2 option, especially if you're in need of a wide receiver or in a deeper league. And then on the Broncos side, just a few of the usual suspects. Melvin Gordon is a good running back 2 option. And then Noah Fant is a great tight end option, especially just due to the middle of the road Buffalo Bills defense.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get into my game pick, and I'm also going to give you guys Sam's game picks this week since he couldn't be on Rundown with us. So I'm going to take the Bills by 10 here. I'm going to take them 31-21. So not a blowout, but a comfortable victory. Sam definitely has a blowout. He is going to take the Bills 38-20.
Yep. And then I'm taking the Bills 28-17. So our next game, the Carolina Panthers at the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are favored by 8.5 points. So what do you think, Max?
Yeah, I think this one could end up being a blowout, to be honest with you. The Panthers, they're really not that bad, but their players have had injuries lately. They have some talent and people to develop around, but this just hasn't been their year so far. It's going to just, their defense is going to just absolutely be shredded by the Packers offense, which of course is a very, very good unit led by the 2 Aarons and Devontae Adams. I think the Panthers could definitely score some points. They have some weapons, and the Packers defense has been suspect at times, but without McCaffrey at full health, this one could very well get out of hand, and Green Bay is going to keep on rolling.
All right, and then from a fantasy side, the 3 Packers players that you're always starting, of course, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Jones are always going to be great starting options. And then for the Panthers, Teddy Bridgewater actually could be a good start if you're in need of a quarterback. McCaffrey is out again, meaning that Mike Davis can be a great option. And then Robbie Anderson, he's starting to look better again, and he's definitely a wide receiver option.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So on to our game picks. I'm taking a route in this one. I'm taking the Green Bay Packers to score 5 touchdowns and win 35-13. Very similarly, Sam is also going to take the Packers in a blowout 30-16.
Yep, and then I definitely think the Packers are going to win. I think the Panthers might score a little more points than you guys are thinking they will. I have the Packers 35-21. Our next game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons. The Buccaneers are favored by 2 field goals, 6 points. So what do you think, Max?
Yeah, so the Buccaneers have a very easy end of their schedule. They get to play Atlanta twice, so this is their first of 2 divisional matchups against the Falcons. The Falcons just played terribly last week against the Chargers. They turned the ball over at least 3 times. I know Matt Ryan threw 3 picks, and the Bucs, of course, have a very strong defense against both the run and the pass, so they'll likely try and take advantage of that for sure. That will likely give Tom Brady a lot of time with the ball. So I think Tampa is definitely going to have the advantage here. That said, you can never really count Atlanta completely out of a game because you never know when their explosive offense could put up, 30 points. So a good game to watch, but probably not the best.
All right, yeah. And from a fantasy side, the Buccaneers have a lot of weapons that you're going to be wanting to start in fantasy. Tom Brady, of course, is a must start. And then pass catchers Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Rob Gronkowski are all good wide receivers. And Rob Gronkowski's a tight end, obviously. And then for the Falcons, Julio Jones looks to be out again. So Calvin Ridley and Hayden Hurst are must starts this week.
Yeah, for sure. So let's get right into game picks. I'm taking Tampa Bay in a pretty close one. I think they'll definitely win, but of course, like I said, Atlanta can score. So I'm going to take them 24-21 in this one, Tampa Bay. And then on a similar note, Sam always loves Tampa because he's a pretty big Tom Brady fan. He took them by 11, 35-24.
Yep, and then I have the Buccaneers winning 24-20. So our next game, the San Francisco 49ers at the Dallas Cowboys. The 49ers are favored by a field goal. So what do you think, Max?
Yeah. So in this one, both these teams are pretty much out of the playoff race. I believe they're still technically able to uh, get into the NFC side of the playoffs, but it's not going to be likely. So this game isn't going to be the best game to watch on this Sunday. Um, Dallas just occasionally ends up looking like they're playing like an absolute dumpster fire. That's what I got to say with Mike McCarthy at the helm. And that especially happens when they're playing well-coached teams I've seen. So San Francisco is a great example of that. Kyle Shanahan is a football genius. He's done very well with San Francisco lately. So I think that the Cowboys could be in a lot of trouble here. The San Francisco offense is a bit limited at times, especially at quarterback because Nick Mullins is not, the best. However, Dallas's defense has just been atrocious this year. They're not very good at all. So I think he will be capable of leading the offense to some points for sure. And Dallas, I'm guessing, will also score some points in this game. Andy Dalton has been doing very well. But in the end, I just think that San Francisco is a better run team right now and will be able to outwit the Dallas side.
All right. And then speaking of those 49ers running backs, Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr., they seem to be splitting carries at this point. So both of them would be low-end running backs in fantasy, but still on your starting roster. And then on the Cowboys, Ezekiel Elliott seems to have lost all value. Really disappointing from a fantasy standpoint. Receivers on the Cowboys, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, they have flex or wide receiver 1 or 2 value. And then once again on the 49ers, Brandon Ayuk is a great option for wide receiver 2 or flex.
Yes, for sure. All right, so let's get into some game picks. I'm taking a decently close game. However, San Francisco is going to come out on top 24-18. Sam has a pretty similar score as myself. He's taking the Niners 21-14.
Yep, and then I think this game's going to be really low scoring. I do think the 49ers are going to win 17-13. Our next game up, the Detroit Lions at the Tennessee Titans, who are favored by 11 points. So, Max, what do you think?
Yeah, so actually, I have been fairly impressed with how the Lions have been playing the last couple of weeks. It hasn't necessarily translated into wins, but interim head coach Darren Bevel, I think, has done better than Patricia was doing with this team for sure. However, it will not be enough to knock off this top offense. Detroit is very, very limited on defense, both medically and just talent-wise right now, and Tennessee's offense is just way too explosive for Detroit to keep up with. I think Tennessee is going to score a lot of points, and Detroit is also limited medically on offense, so they will not be able to keep the pace here. The Titans definitely are going to need this game to keep their stronghold on the AFC South. And I just don't see the Lions posing enough of a threat of them with their really measly defense to really be dangerous to the Titans right now.
All right, and then from a fantasy side, Kenny Galladay is officially out for the rest of the season. So Marvin Jones Jr. and T.J. Hawkinson should step up and get an increase in targets, which will obviously float their fantasy value. If Matthew Stafford does play, he's questionable, but if he does play, the Tennessee Titans defense is so bad that he would be a good quarterback option. And then on the Titans, AJ Brown and Corey Davis have been looking really good, especially from a fantasy side. So definitely be looking at them as wide receivers. And then at this point, Derrick Henry is looking to be basically a lock for 20 or 25 points. So obviously, in any situation, you are starting him.
Yes, for sure. Derrick Henry has been an absolute beast as of late. So for game picks in this one, I'm taking Tennessee not quite by the 11 that Vegas has. I'm taking them by 10, 30-20. Sam is going with a much closer game. Sam's also pretty biased against the Lions, I have found in my work with him. He's taking the Titans only by 4, 31-27.
Yep, and then I'm confident in the Titans at this point. I think they're definitely going to win. So I have them 28-12, which brings us to our next game. The Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts, who are favored by a touchdown. So Max, what do you have?
Yeah, so there's not much to say here, to be honest with you. The Colts, of course, are fighting very hard to take back the AFC South, and I think the Texans are going to be an easy first step for them back to the top. Deshaun Watson, obviously, he's excellent. He's going to do all that he can, but I just don't think it's going to be enough to lift this really just struggling team to a win. And the Colts, like you could say they don't have great players at some positions, but there's really no position I can think of where you're like, wow, the Colts are just terrible at that. They're all around a solid team, and I think they're going to do very well against the Texans.
Yep, and then for fantasy, like you said, Deshaun Watson, he's a must start as always. Brandon Cooks is back for this game, and he's a great option for wide receiver 2 or flex. And then for the Colts, Jonathan Taylor. The Texans defense is not very good, to say the least, and Jonathan Taylor is a great option. Michael Pittman Jr. is a good flex option as well. And then the Colts defense and special teams, especially against the Texans, is a must start.
Yes. So for game picks in this one, I'm taking Indianapolis by a pretty comfortable margin, 24-10. However, Sam has a much closer game with the Colts winning by a field goal, 26-23.
Yep, and Deshaun Watson, he can't do it all by himself, and that's why the Colts are going to win 28-14. All right, our next game, the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins, who are favored by 1.5 points. A very close game, according to Vegas. So what do you think about that, Max?
Yes, I think this is going to be a really interesting game to watch, to be honest. So as we've seen throughout his career, Bill Belichick is absolutely brutal against rookie quarterbacks, and of course Tua is likely no exception. As you guys saw, New England destroyed LA and Justin Herbert, the rookie passer, 45-0. So Bill Belichick he's brutal against rookie passers. But Tua and the Dolphins, they just hung very close with Kansas City. So I have to say there's not much doubt about which team is more talented or better on paper. The Dolphins have a stronger roster through and through. That said, Bill Belichick, you can never really count him out. Both of the coaches in this game I like a lot. Bill Belichick, obviously Brian Flores is very good as well. So this could be a very interesting coaching battle. I think the Dolphins really, really need this win to stay within the playoff picture at all. So this is going to be a really hard-fought battle. The big weakness for the Patriots, in my opinion, is Cam Newton. He's not been throwing the ball well lately at all. And Miami has an absolutely stellar pass defense. Xavier Howard picked off Patrick Mahomes twice, and that's something that almost nobody can say they've done. So, the Dolphins have a great pass defense, and Cam Newton is not a great passer. That could be the tipping point in this one, possibly.
All right, and then for fantasy, if Mike Gesicki is back for this game, then he's a great tight end option. Devontae Parker would be a good wide receiver too. Maybe just a flex, but he should be a good wide receiver too. And then for the Patriots, Jacoby Myers and Damian Harris, they're the only people on that Patriots offense that you want to be putting on your starting roster in fantasy. And then both defenses would actually be good options this week.
I totally agree with you on the defenses. This is definitely a game where both defenses could be very, very viable fantasy options. I'm taking a very close game in this one. I have trouble going against Belichick and a rookie passer, but I'm going to take the Dolphins 24-23, a 1-point game. As you can see there, Sam has this game as his upset of the week. He's taking New England 23-20.
Yep, and then the Dolphins, they're going to be playing their hardest because obviously if they want to keep their playoff push alive, this is a must-win for them. So I'm taking the Dolphins by a field goal, 24-21. The next game up, the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are favored by a field goal, so what do you think about it, Max?
This is another big playoff game. Both these teams are kind of on the cusp right now. A loss for either of them is basically the end of the season, so it could be an interesting one in the NFC North. Chicago's offense seems to be slightly revitalized in this one. They've been playing pretty well. And Minnesota's defense is not what it has been in the past years. So definitely look for that Chicago offense to score some points. But I would say that Minnesota's offense is really doing just fine. Of course, they've had a lot of kicking troubles. We'll see how that affects this game. It could be impactful. Obviously, they could have had a chance with the Bucs if they didn't leave 10 points on the board or whatever, or off the board. So they should be able to put up some points despite a tough matchup against Chicago's defense. I think both teams are going to look to use the run game in this one. David Montgomery's been good for Chicago. Dalvin Cook is, of course, a monster for the Vikings. So they'll both try to, give their QBs some passing lanes as the run game kind of opens up those passing lanes. And that's really what I think is going to be the difference, is which team is going to be able to pass the ball better in this one personally.
Yep, I agree. For fantasy, rookie receiver Justin Jefferson is a great option for a wide receiver one, as is Adam Thielen. And then Dalvin Cook, he's still in your starting lineup, of course, but he really may struggle against this stellar Bears rushing defense. And then David Montgomery and Allen Robinson are the only people on the Bears you want to be looking at. They're good running back one and wide receiver one options.
Definitely. David Montgomery has been phenomenal this year after Tariq Cohen went out early in the season. So in this one, I'm going to go – I like the Vikings personally in this one. I think they match up better, and I'm going to take them by 10, 24-14. Sam has an almost identical score to myself. He's taking them 30-21.
Yep, and then as you see, this is my upset of the week. I think the Bears have kind of broken out of their slump, and I think they're red hot right now. So I have the Bears winning this game, but in a very close battle, 24-21 Bears. Our next game, the Seattle Seahawks at the Washington Football Team. Seattle is favored by 5.5 points. So what do you have on it, Max?
This is another one that I'm pretty excited for, to be honest. It's also possibly a playoff preview, because if both these teams hold their current seeds, they'll match up in the wild card round come January. I think you could definitely say the football team matches up well against Seattle here. The defense for Washington is, of course, dominant, and the Seahawks offensive line is both limited due to injuries and they're just not that good. So you could see Russell Wilson under a lot of heat in this one. And the Seahawks have been inconsistent on offense at times, so that Washington defense could have a really good game. I think that Washington's offense is good enough to stay in this game. It's, of course, not great, especially without Alex Smith. So definitely look for the football team to do anything they can to keep this game as low scoring as possible, because their offense probably cannot hang with the Seahawks when they're on. That said, if the the Washington defensive line can shut this Seattle offensive line down, then you could see a very close game in this one.
All right, and then for fantasy, a lot of weapons on the Seattle Seahawks that you want to be keeping in your starting lineup. Russell Wilson, Chris Carson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett are all starters in their respective positions. And then for the Washington Football Team, Antonio Gibson could be back this week, and if he is, then he's a great starting option. But if he's not, then J.D. McKissick and Peyton Barber can be running back two options. And then, as you said, the Washington defense is going to be very important in this game, and they might be a good starting DST as well.
Yes, for sure. It is notable that Antonio Gibson is doubtful. He might play, and definitely start him if he does. But also J.D. McKissick could be an excellent option for sure because of how many catches he gets. So definitely look his way. So yeah, for game picks in this one, I have a really close game. I like the football team. I think they match up well against Seattle. However, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson is just such a good duo there, and I see them winning this game 21-18.
Yep, and then Sam took the football team 27-20, so he has a bit of an upset there. And then I am with Max. I have the Seahawks winning 24-10. So next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Baltimore Ravens, favored by 12.5 points. So what do you think, Max?
What a game this is going to
I
be.
know.
No, just kidding. Jaguars I think, are going to get absolutely crushed. The Ravens need a couple games here to get into the playoffs, which I see them doing based on their easy schedule. The Jags are obviously on a serious losing streak, haven't won since the beginning of the year, and they have shown no signs of improvement whatsoever. Lamar Jackson is coming off one of his better games of the season for Baltimore, so I think that the entire Baltimore team is it's getting healthier, slightly healthier. They're still a little banged up, but they're getting healthier. This is a great game for them to just absolutely dominate, and kind of a get right game for them to really feel comfortable with all their game plan and stuff. So I'm expecting a one-sided affair here.
I agree with you there. For fantasy, James Robinson is a great option, as always, top running back at this point in the season. Keelan Cole and DJ Chark would be very low end flex options, but you still could look their way if you're in dire need. Lamar Jackson seems to be back at a must start value in fantasy football, along with Mark Andrews at tight end. And then the Ravens defense actually could have a monstrous game against these terrible Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes, for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and take a pretty big blowout here. I'm taking Baltimore 31-10. Sam's taking the Ravens 35-9.
Yep, I don't think this is going to be a very good game. I have the Ravens 24-13, which brings us into another terrible game. The New York Jets at the Los Angeles Rams, with the biggest line I've ever seen. The Los Angeles Rams favored by 17.5 points. So Max, do you think that's absurd or not?
No, I think that's very appropriate. I think the Jets are bad at every part of the game except maybe special teams. Um, New York's offense is just completely hapless. They can't get a single point on the board in some games, and LA's defense is, of course, excellent, phenomenal. So I think the Rams' offense will be very comfortable in this one, playing with a lead the whole time. They'll play very well, and I don't see anything crazy happening in this one.
Yep, and then for fantasy, if Jamison Crowder doesn't start, then you want to stay very far away from everybody on the Jets. If Jamison Crowder does start, he could be a wide receiver 2 or flex. The duo of Rams wide receivers, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, are must starts, wide receiver 1, as usual. And then Cam Akers seems to be the Rams' leading back now. He had a very good game against the Patriots. He had over 200 yards rushing that game, so he could be a running back 2 option. And then Jared Goff, a low end starter at quarterback, but he could be a starter.
Yeah, for sure. So, as far as game picks go here, no surprises from me. LA 35-7. Sam has a very similar score at 34-10.
Yep, I have the Rams 28-14, so maybe a little less of a blowout than the line suggests, but still not a game I'm going to waste my time watching on Sunday. So our next game, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are favored by 6 points, so what do you think?
Yeah, I think this one could end up being a pretty ugly game. The Cardinals get penalized, I think, more than any other team in the league still. Philadelphia can, of course, look completely discombobulated on offense at times. It could be a pretty wild affair. You expect some crazy plays. You never really know what you're going to get. Jalen Hurts did very well in his first start. Hopefully he continues that, of course, kind of builds on this team and does what Carson Wentz could not do. Um, the Arizona offense is, of course, very explosive at times, could put up a lot of points in this one, but the Eagles' defense is also pretty solid. So technically, the Eagles still have a chance to make the playoffs, actually. And, of course, Arizona has a pretty good chance as well. So this is going to be a huge game for both NFC teams in this one, trying to claw their way into the playoffs.
For sure. And then for fantasy, Miles Sanders, he seems to be back, and he's a running back 1 this week. Travis Fulgham and Jalen Rager, very low end flex options. I would say only if you're in a very dire need of wide receivers. And then for the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, a must start quarterback. Kenyon Drake should see an uptick in carries as Chase Edmonds is out this week. And then DeAndre Hopkins is obviously a matchup-proof wide receiver one this week, as always.
Of course. So as you guys see, this is my upset of the week. I had a little trouble picking a good upset this week, and I think this is going to be the one that I choose. I think that Philadelphia seems to be turning around. They obviously just beat a very good team in the Saints. Obviously, when Jalen Hurts plays well, when they have good quarterback play, they looked like a very complete team, both offensively and defensively, against a very good New Orleans side. The Cardinals, I think, are very inconsistent. They could be playing very well or be playing like very, very badly. And I think this might be a game in which they play very, very badly against Philadelphia. I'm going to take the Eagles, actually, 28-27. Sam almost went with me. He picked the Cardinals only by 1, 20-19.
Yep, I do have the Cardinals winning this game, but like you said, Max, I had a little bit of trouble choosing this game because, like you said, the Cardinals are so inconsistent, and then it's hard to tell if the Philadelphia Eagles will keep up that performance from last week. But I do have the Cardinals 21-17. Next game up, the STV Sports Game of the Week, the Kansas City Chiefs at the New Orleans Saints. The Chiefs are favored by a field goal, so a very good game. What do you think about it, Max?
Yeah, so not a lot of playoff implications here within the conferences, but both of these teams are, of course, fighting very hard for the number 1 seed. And honestly, whichever team wins this game, I think will probably get the number 1 seed in their respective conferences. The Saints are likely to get Drew Brees back, which is, of course, going to elevate their offensive play, and which is something they definitely need to do because Patrick Mahomes is leading that Kansas City offense, and it's going to be lethal. New Orleans defense has been good all year, but of course didn't play great against Philly. So they definitely need a bounce back game if they want any chance here against Kansas City, because of course they're so explosive. If New Orleans isn't on top of their game, they will all of a sudden find themselves down by like 2 touchdowns. I think both of these coaches are excellent. It's going to be a great coaching battle with teams with different strengths and weaknesses. They're both, of course, Super Bowl contenders. And I think it could come down to the wire for sure. So this is going to be a great game to watch.
I agree. For fantasy, Drew Brees is back, but he's probably not a great starter. But what that does mean is that Alvin Kamara should be back to his original value because Taysom Hill won't be stealing those carries on the ground. And then on the Saints, obviously the usual suspects, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, all must starts at their position. And that's it for fantasy.
Yes. So for a game pick, I have to take the Chiefs here. I just think they're a slightly better team all around. So I'm going to take them by 4, 31-27. Sam is kind of a Saints hater. No, just kidding. He took the Chiefs 35-24 in this one.
Yep, and the Chiefs, they seem to be the best team in the league. They certainly look like the best team in the league, so I don't see them losing this game or any games for the rest of the season. So I have the Chiefs winning 35-21. Next game up, the Cleveland Browns at the New York Giants. The Browns are favored by 5 points. So what do you think, Max?
Yeah, so despite losing that last game, the Browns played very, very well throughout the whole game, except, of course, their defense, but their offense played great. The Giants, on the other hand, came off a loss where they played just terribly. The Giants' defense is very decent, but the Browns' lethal ground attack is going to look to just take command of this game, send the Giants out of playoff contention. So I think the Giants, if they can keep the ball for a while and get the passing game going and attack that Browns secondary, they could have a chance. But I think the Browns are going to just run it down their throats, keep the ball for just a really long time, keep it out of New York's hands. And as a result, I think it might be tough for New York to keep pace in this game.
All right, and then as you said, the Cleveland Browns are going to be running the ball a lot this game, which is why Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are both must starts at the running back position. Jarvis Landry might actually be a start at wide receiver 2 or flex this week. And then for the New York Giants, Wayne Gallman or Sterling Shepard are both possible starts at running back 2 or wide receiver 2. And then Evan Ingram is a great tight end option for this week. And you might want to be looking at the Browns DST. And that's really it for fantasy.
Yes. So now on to my game pick. I'm taking the Browns by 6, 24-18. Sam is taking a bit of a higher scoring game, 35-27.
And then I'm also taking a pretty high scoring game. I have the Browns 28-21. Which brings us to our last game, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Steelers favored by 12.5 points. So I'm going to hand it to you, Max.
Yeah, so this is definitely going to be a pretty big blowout, in my opinion. The Bengals cannot get anything good going on either side of the ball. They've scored a combined 2 touchdowns over their last 2 games. They've been plagued by turnovers. The Steelers, they haven't been great on offense lately, but I think they're going to get plenty of turnovers against the Bengals, keep the ball for a while, and put up some points for sure. They'll be able to capitalize, and I think they're gonna have a great game, especially if Brandon Allen doesn't play. If Ryan Finley starts for Cincinnati, he's just not a good quarterback. So I think Steelers will just absolutely dominate the Bengals in this game.
Yep, I agree. Not going to be a good game at all. I'm not wasting my time watching it for sure. Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins are the only players on the Bengals you should be even considering for fantasy. And they're really just flex options at this point. Ben Roethlisberger, he is a must start this week at the quarterback spot. James Conner should have a decent week against this bad Bengals defense. And then Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Deontay Johnson, they would be very good on their own, but since they have so many pass-catching weapons in Pittsburgh, you never know who's going to get all the targets, and that's why they are all just wide receiver 2 or maybe even just flex value. So, Max, game picks.
Plus, those Pittsburgh wide receivers dropped the ball a ton.
That's
pretty
true.
Pretty sure I heard that they dropped like 9.7% of their passes or something crazy like that. Anyway, game picks, I'm taking Pittsburgh in a blowout 28-7. Sam is doing the same. He has them 24-3.
See, I actually think that the Bengals might score 2 times this week. So I have the Steelers winning 21-10.
Man, I hope.
Which brings us to the end of our video.
Yeah, so that's the end of our NFL Week 15 rundown. I hope everybody enjoyed watching our video. Watch out for more videos next week. And please make sure to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and of course, have a great day, guys. Peace.
Thank you.